It's been said that George Washington always wanted to build a library at his Mount Vernon home. It was one of the few things he never got around to. Now, more than 200 years later, dignitaries broke ground at his Mount Vernon estate to build a privately funded $47 million library. For the first time ever, Mount Vernon's vast collection of George Washington's books, manuscripts, and archival material will be organized, conserved, and available for viewing in this new National Library.
It's been said that George Washington always wanted to build a library at his Mount Vernon home. It was one of the few things he never got around to. Now, more than 200 years later, dignitaries broke ground at his Mount Vernon estate to build a privately funded $47 million library. For the first time ever, Mount Vernon's vast collection of George Washington's books, manuscripts, and archival material will be organized, conserved, and available for viewing in this new National Library. Historic Mount Vernon, the home of George Washington, broke ground on the new Fred W. Smith National Library for the Study of George Washington, with a ceremony featuring Secretary of Defense Robert M. Gates as the keynote speaker.
70 years ago this summer, one of Washington's successors, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, dedicated the first modern presidential library at his upstate New York residence, Hyde Park. At that ceremony, Roosevelt said that it reflected the nation's belief in the capacity of its own people to learn from the past so that they can gain in judgment in creating their own future. Today at Mount Vernon, we begin construction of the new National Library for the Study of George Washington. No American president deserves the honor of a presidential library more than George Washington.
The new library will house more than 15,000 items, including rare 18th and 19th century books that were owned by our first president, and 500 letters, ledgers, and account books that bear George Washington's writing or signature. In addition to safeguarding and exhibiting the books and manuscripts, the 45,000-square-foot National Library, located on 5 acres across from Mount Vernon's conservation complex, will serve as a scholarly retreat, create educational outreach programs on Washington, and provide seminars and training programs with a special focus on Washington's leadership.
Well, I think it was a great beginning. We still have both a lot of money to raise, and we've got a lot of programs to create and a lot of work to do to really reach out across the country and try to establish a base for George Washington where we think it's been basically pushed aside for decades upon decades. And in the 19th and the 18th centuries, he was the man, and now we're lucky if people recognize his face on the dollar bill. And so there's a lot of hard work to do to bring back his reputation to where we think it deserves to be.
Destined to be a George Washington think tank, the $47 million National Library is expected to be completed in 2013. The Mount Vernon Ladies Association, which purchased the estate from the Washington family in 1858, is unusual in that it receives no funds from the local, state, or federal governments. Although plans for the library have been in the works for years, the project is now able to move forward thanks to a $38 million gift from the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation, which was presented in 2010. The foundation's gift is the largest in Mount Vernon history, which ranks as the oldest and most visited national preservation project in America. Fred W. Smith, the foundation's chairman, has been a Mount Vernon supporter since 2001 after becoming involved in efforts to keep a famous portrait of Washington from being sold at a private auction. The estate has not completed its fundraising. It has so far raised about $70 of the $100 million that will be needed to build and endow the library.
This concludes